Oh my goodness, today on the podcast, do I ever have a treat for you? Today we're doing something a little bit different. I am pulling back the curtain. We are opening up the doors. We're doing other things that you say that means that you're going to get a sneak peek behind the scenes, whatever, of one of the coaching calls that I have with one of the most incredible Fearless Framework students. Heather and her dog Geordie have been working with me inside the Fearless Framework program. Can I just say, as a shout out to Heather before we get into the interview, Heather is one of the people that have just really embraced all of this. She's been doing it. She has been she's been trusting in the process. She signed on when I said this wasn't going to be a quick fix and we're not going to be addressing the things that you want to address right now, and that's going to seem frustrating, but you got to trust me and you got to get a little weird with me. You got to get a little weird with me. So she signed up, she signed in, she dialed in, she's doing all the things, and I couldn't be happier with her progress. And so, just the relationship that her and Geordie have built and are continuing to build. It's always a work in process. We're always working on it. But today I wanted to share just a little bit of it. This isn't the whole coaching call. It's just kind of a section of it. But I wanted you to kind of, I don't know, be a fly on the wall of what it's like to have a coaching call with moi. And I really hope that you are inspired by the things that she said. I hope that you can sort of step into her journey a little bit, that frustration that she had of having a dog that was completely tuned out from her. The frustration that she used to have with him and not enjoying the walks and not enjoying spending time with this dog, to the relationship that she has now. So without further ado, can I introduce you to my friend Heather and her dog Geordie. I hope you enjoy. Ready to have a calm and peaceful life with your dog without the stress of those fear-based behaviors? Hi, I'm Tracy, and I've been there, overwhelmed by all the conflicting dog training advice and unsure of what to do next. But now I help dog lovers like you simplify your life with your dog by building confidence naturally, fostering trust, and addressing those fear-based challenges. So, if you're ready, stop chopping those chicken wieners and let's get to it.
Hey there. All right. So you're looking lovely. It's like early morning for you.
9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, so it's not too bad.
That's not too
So
bad.
we've been out for our walk and back home again, so all is good. Yeah.
All is good. Can I tell you that your post about taking them to the vet and what you did really did make me smile? Like I was like, yes, all yeses all around. I read your post and I was like, like Heather's just one of these people that just is getting it. Like you're getting it. And I know you're coming on tonight because you're like questioning about the walk and all that stuff, and that's fine. But I think in general, you're getting it. Like you're getting the idea of what it means to partner with him rather than, in a lot of cases, bribe them.
I think that's the biggest thing I've learned. So in the last 6 months with working with you is there's been a real mind shift, and that it's opened up my mind to actually look at things so differently.
Mm-hmm.
And you said very early on, this is about reaching your dog and not teaching your dog. And I have that in my mind a lot. So when I come across these sort of sticky moments, I tend to think of that and I think, all right, let's just watch what's going on a little bit and see how we can sort of work together. And it's made a huge difference to Geordie, and I can't tell you just how much. It's really changed things.
Yeah, I love that.
But I think the car episode gave me a boost of confidence as well, because I was always nervous and sort of perhaps doubted the connection that Geordie and I have. And I used to think if I just push or challenge him too much, I'm going to lose this little bit of trust that we've been building. But having worked through the car and kind of making him face his struggle, his whatever it was, I don't know.
Yeah.
And we both came out the other end, I think, a lot stronger. And that
Mhm.
he's so proud of himself. You know, he just jumps in that new car like he's been doing it for years now. And it kind of gives you this look when he's done it, you know, and we
Yeah,
both sort
like
of,
look what I
yeah.
did.
And it's really, really lovely. So to know that, yes, I've had to push him and he's been bucking and carrying on the lead, but he's still, I think it's probably increased a level of trust that
Mhm.
we've sort of worked through that.
Yeah.
And nothing bad happened to him. In fact, some good things. You know, he's had a great holiday and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So when I went to the vet, I felt more confident in saying, right, you know, walk on. We're coming in here,
We're
and
doing
then
this.
we're doing it. And then yes, he was carrying on, you know, at the end of the lead, and I just basically stood
Yeah.
and just didn't do anything. And I had said to the receptionist, because she's one of these really high-pitched, noisy, oh, come on, Geordie, you know, and let's get on the scales. And I'm thinking, you know, oh, but it's important that he realizes I'm nice. And I said, he can do that when you're quiet.
Yeah.
So I said, please do not speak to us when we come in.
Yeah.
Just keep working, you know.
Isn't
And
isn't that an
she did.
interesting statement though that she just made? It's important that he knows that I'm nice. It's important to
Mm,
her.
mm,
It's not
mm.
important to Geordie.
No,
It's not important to Geordie at all that she's
no,
nice. That's meaningless to him, but it's important to her. And this is where, like, those are those moments where I'm like, this is where we fundamentally go wrong with dogs. We need to check that at the door and be like, you're not doing this for you. We're doing this
mm,
whole thing for the dog. And this is what
yeah,
he needs, right? He
yeah,
doesn't need to know that you're nice. Why does he need to know that you're nice? We just
yeah,
like it, right? We want all the dogs to know that it's a nice place and that we're all nice in here, but that's for us. So
yeah,
anyway, I thought I think that comment is interesting that it's important that, he knows that I'm nice. No, it
yeah.
doesn't. Does he have to walk around in life and think that every stranger is nice? Like, he doesn't.
Mm.
But good for you for saying that, right? You'd be like,
Yeah,
yeah, what she said.
and I'll just say a little bit more. So,
Yeah,
but
exactly. And
anyway,
I will finish this discussion with this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, just the personality quiz.
Hmm.
I was surprised Geordie was a left brain introvert. I did it 3 times.
I am a little too, but I can see him as thinking. I would probably think that he would be a left brain extrovert for
Mm,
his like herding side. A lot of like collies and shepherds and all of those, they all usually tend to be left brain extroverts. Um, he's more cautious. So I think Geordie kind of runs between left and right brain, right? Like, and I think he probably is on one of those, like, he's like right on the line. So he
yeah.
probably, like, the fluidity of it is probably like, now I'm thinking, now I've shifted into, because he's shifting into drive, right?
Mm,
So every time
mm,
that like he gets stalky, that's drive. But when he's stalking like the sheep and whatnot, that's drive, but still connection with you, right? Because you could
mm,
tell that he can hear you. Like that video
yeah,
that you took where you guys were doing it together, you could see that one ear is listening to you. So
yeah,
he's in drive, but he's still engaged. So he's not
yeah.
fully right brained, but I think he kind of probably goes back and forth from the right brain to the left brain. And the introvert thing, I think you're seeing more of an introvert just because he's cautious, right?
Right.
Not necessarily because he's not like, I don't feel like moving my feet. He's a lot more like, I don't want to go right away. I got to take that in. So he's probably, I would say, probably flipping from left brain to right brain, probably still on the introvert side. But what we
Right.
would want from him through the work that you do would be to pull him more to that left brain. Like that would be my first step, is always getting him to like pull himself out of the drives, either the working drive or the sphere drive, pull him out of those drives. But then once he's there, we want to get him to start moving his feet, but with your direction,
Mm.
right? So that's where we need him to stay. Like, so when we pull him from right brain to left brain and he's listening, we want to move. That's where like the actual training of herding dogs would come in super, super handy, because that would drive him all the way back to left brain extrovert. Because you'd pull him out of right brain, he'd have to go into left brain because he's got to think and he's got to pay attention to instruction. And then he's going to move his feet, which is going to let him get all of that excessive energy that he has internalized. But he's moving his feet with direction from, like, the handler kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would be sort of the goal eventually with him is, and you can kind of think about it when you're walking him. You can kind of sort of get into his mind there. Like when he's getting really, really cautious, you can kind of tell if that caution is coming from with a kind of a whoa caution, that's him being right-brained defensive, scared, fearful, whatever, versus cautious where he's stalking, right?
Yeah.
So it's all in this body language. So if you notice him sort of backing up, let's say a dog's approaching and he's kind of backing up, that's him cautious. We know that he's now right-brained because he's in defense. He's being cautious. How do we get the right-brained dog that's cautious? We're going to actually ask, that's introverted, I am going to ask him to move his feet, but not towards the thing that he's looking at. So if I have a dog that goes, oh shoot, and now they're kind of stuck, I'm going to do a thing where I move out into his periphery so he can see me. I'm going to try to break that. What do I need to do to get his attention to come back to me? And then I'm going to ask him to move this way. It's a hard ask, because if he thinks that's a threat, they hate turning their back on that. So you can either try moving yourself in between and then guiding them away. But that would be like, when I see a dog that's like that, I'm like, I got to get him to move. I want him to move his feet, but not towards the thing that he's scared of. And it's not a step back.
And I've sort of been looking at how I'm doing things, and I think most of it's me.
It's always us.
If
It's always us. That's what we're doing.
because when we're out and everything's fine, and honestly, if we're generally on the golf course or open spaces and he sees a dog, except for that one the other day, but if he sees a dog, he'll just glance up and stop his sniffing. He'll glance up and then he'll just keep sniffing, and he completely ignores them, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And so I tend to relax then as well. But if we're on a more narrow trail or we're in town and I look up and see a dog, instead of me just thinking, oh yeah, there's a dog, I have this, oh shit, it's a dog feeling.
Right.
And I sense that even though I'll keep the leash loose, when Geordie starts to move forward, I can feel myself restraining him with the leash instead of trying to keep it loose but short. And then I think I try to flee too quickly, so it's kind of like this, let's go, and then he gets dragged, as opposed to let's go, and then if he doesn't, giving him a little pop with the lead, for him to start moving. So I think a lot of it's me.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say 100%. And it is the difference for him. It's the difference of he has a lot more autonomy on 10-foot line to make
Yeah.
choices himself. What's interesting to me is that those are the choices he makes with dogs that are not in the social bubble, right?
Mm.
So if they're, which is great, because it gets so much harder when you have a dog that reacts to a dog that's way over there, because you're like, they're not even in the bubble. Like that's a
Mm.
reaction. The fact that he's like, oh, you're over there, I'm over there, that's cool. That's part of the left braininess, right? Like
Right.
that right there would be like, that's probably where you're seeing the left brain introvert stuff, because he's not like, oh geez, there's a dog, or oh my gosh, there's a dog, or I need to go. He's just like, there's a dog. And
Yeah.
then he goes on. So that's probably where you're seeing the left brain introvert stuff, right? But when he has those options, what's interesting is he's telling you how he feels about the dog over there, and I'm cool with it. And you're like, I'm cool with it too, because it's not a threat to either one of you. You're absolutely right. When you shorten it up, or when the dogs are closer and they come into that social, if your mindset is, oh shit, there's a dog, then he's going to go, oh shit, there's a dog, right? Like that's just
Mm.
how that works. So you can play around with, like, it's got to start with you. We're going to have to try to change your mindset, but it's not going to be enough to be like, this isn't like a, be positive, Heather, and use affirmations and just be like, we got this. Like, it doesn't really work that way. But what you
Mm.
can do to kind of remind yourself, or to take to kind of make it almost exaggeratedly different, is to actually say, and this would be like one of the few times where I'm like, say it out loud because you're saying it for you, but say
Mm.
something like, hey, there's the dog. And then move them to the other side. Like, have a thing where you're like, here's the dog. And dog means, now when I say, oh, there's a dog, and say it really like upbeat, because you're
Yeah.
not for him, you're just saying this for you.
Yeah.
There's a dog. So when I see a dog, that means he goes behind me, he gets on this side, we're going to shorten up, we're going to be like, there you go, buddy, we're good, or whatever. You can start to use some words for yourself to really kind of change your emotional response to it.
Yeah.
That should be what you're doing anyway, as far as what he has to do. So my dogs all know that if we're walking, like this happens to us all the time, because we walk on the beach and the beach is wide, and I do what's easy. Like, I'm never one of these people that are like, when you have to keep working to get like closer. So even when it's far away, I'm not like that. Do you think that I intentionally go and find people on the beach to walk my dogs past? No. I make my
Mm.
life easy. So when I have the space, I use the space. I'm always conscious of what dogs are in control and what dogs are out of control. If there's an out of control dog, I do a lot of shifting. Like, I have to move my dogs. If I've got my little dog, I have to like really protect her, because big dogs will come and pick up a little dog and shake the crap out of them. Like, there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
go through my head about protecting my pack at that time. But I use the space. So always use the space, and never think to yourself, on the golf course, I should get to a point where I can walk by people. That, you don't have to do that.
Mm.
We take
Yeah.
that off, right?
Yeah.
But what happens for me is we go onto the boardwalk. So we get to the end of the beach, and then we have to go up these stairs, and now we're on a boardwalk. The moment that we're on the boardwalk, the dogs have to come in closer to me, and they automatically know, when I see a dog, it means there's a dog, you're moving behind me, you're getting on the inside, we're moving to this side, you're getting on whatever it happens to be. And I've had dogs that have come off leash, if I have a dog that's coming off leash at me on that boardwalk, depending on where we are, because some of it goes through the marsh, I will actually almost push my dogs off the boardwalk, like into the fence, and I'll block, like, I'll body block. So you can try, like, is that what you normally do when you see a dog? Like, what is the normal thing that you ask him to do when you see a dog?
I do try, and he struggles with this, because if he sees the dog, he wants to be on the same side as the dog. So
Of course he does.
I do sort of say switch, and try and get myself placed between the dog and Geordie. And he's getting better at that, because I do that if we see people even without a dog, so that it's just becoming
Yeah.
a more natural thing that I'll always be between whoever's passing us.
Yeah. So keep practicing that, and then add the cue for yourself and make it happy. Like, there's a dog, switch. You just need a few life layered successes for your confidence to build naturally. Same
Yeah.
with the car, like how the car built that up to, to get you into the vet. You need the same sort of thing. And if
Mm.
you have a situation with an out of control dog that is off leash or even is just out of control, and Geordie loses his banana beans, whatever, and and you're like, oh my God, that's on them, right?
Yeah.
That experience is on those people. That's not on you and Geordie. And it's not going to wreck what happens between you and Geordie. The trigger for the increased tension is coming from your oh shit moment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's because we know that his response to dogs in general is, if they're out of his way and he has the autonomy to make choices,
Mm.
is, oh, like,
Yeah.
that's his natural response.
And that's something I've found interesting, because when he was younger, he always seemed to just, let me get to that dog. I want to say hello. I want to play. He was the life of the party in the dog park when he had his little pack. And now, if I take him in, even if it's with a dog he doesn't know, um, he'll go up, he'll sniff, and then he's off doing his own thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
And I just sort of think, well, his interest is not like it used to be.
Yeah, and that happens. They do change. How many bad incidents has he had? Because what happens if you're on a narrower path and a dog is coming? What does he do?
That's when he will still pancake.
He pancakes. Yeah.
And then I think, oh, Christ, it's hard to get him moving. And if they don't stop, that's when he's at the end of the lead, and carrying on like an idiot. I sort of started getting nervous around Geordie probably when he was about 12 months old. And well, I shouldn't say nervous around Geordie, but he was unpredictable then as to, this pancaking and then reacting.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, I really didn't have any problems. And I used to just walk him. And then John was walking him as well at that time. And he came home and he said, oh, Geordie's started barking at all these dogs. And then I sort of probably started to get a bit anxious about it as well.
Okay.
Mm.
One of the things that you can do and it will help with the practicing, is if you're on a trail, and we can't see who's around the bend, even if it's a ridiculous hour where you think nobody is there. I would take all of those opportunities to practice. When we can't see threats, we check back in. Like, it's time to check back in. So as you're approaching that, be like, okay, Geordie, whatever your command would be to, like, come back, have them come back, have them switch up like you would, like, anticipate that there would be a dog there, right? And have them come back, make them switch, have them on this side so that, anybody coming on this side can go past you. If nobody's there, you can look around and be like, okay, all clear, and then let him go. But just get him into the habit of, when we can't see, and I do that with my dogs. If I can't see what's over a hill, they all have to come back. If I can't see what's around a corner, they all have to come back. Even if they're on long lines, I make them come back. And that's not because my dogs have any issues, but because there's so many ding dong dogs out there that, but it would be a great way to practice. You can come up with a command for it, like something fun. Don't make it like heel. Like, I don't use heel because I don't like that command. But and more your more direct commands I would use in Humansville, like, so your walk on kind of a thing, or whatever you're using to make sure, like, when he sees something and you're saying, I've got it, it's fine, and he's right beside you and you say walk on with that confidence, you can save that for your Humansville experiences, and then have something a little bit more lighter, a little bit more fun, if you will, for like the less, we call them informal commands. But, for example, like, I don't call my dogs to come if there's no real reason for them to drop everything and come. I'll say here, right? Or I'll just say their name. I'm like, Nike, and if she looks at me, I'm like, here, here is just like, gather around. I don't expect them to come straight on. I just need them to come back a little bit. But come means you have to drop what you're doing and get your butt back here right now because there's a danger or whatnot. So you could start to play around with, there's nobody around, but there's a bend coming up, some sort of thing that means come on back to me and check in. This is just a check in, and we're going to go around this corner together as a partner. That's also going to show him that you're looking for threats, right? You see that there could be a potential threat up there. It will also dial him back in. I know the rabbit trail probably helped him because he was kind of split focused on a rabbit trail and he was hunting. Yeah. But it will also dial him back in when he's hunting. Yeah. Right? And we can be like, yeah, I know you're on a trail, but we got to come back in because, we're out in nature, but there's also people here ruining everything, Yeah. People ruining everything. So you can play around with that, but that's going to give you that practice of, come on back in, check in. You can even try to switch and whatnot. He comes in, okay, switch, buddy, and just make it like really, really. If you practice it when there's nobody there, and you're using that happy tone, like switch, buddy, good job, good boy, or whatever you say to him as a norm. Good job, we're going. We go around. Okay, all clear. We're going. And then you give him his leash again, and you can even at that point be like, okay, let's find that scent again. Let's see if we can find that trail again, buddy. Even if he's not really paying attention, you don't have to go find the trail, but you know what I mean. But giving you an opportunity to practice this, like, no big deal. And then if you have the occurrence, you've already practiced it a couple of times. The next time you come, you go, oh, come on back, and somebody comes around, you can be like, oh, there's a dog, bud, switch. And then we have more of a, because I feel as though Geordie probably can do this. We just have to life layer for both of you that positive interaction, because I think he's showing us what kind of dog he is when he has space, when he has autonomy, when he has the ability to make the choices himself. He's like, I don't really care about the dogs. And I think he probably doesn't really care about the dogs. Runners, or dogs running, or bikes, or anything like that, that's a whole other ball game, because that movement is going to ignite that drive. That's just an internal thing. He can't help that, right? So for those, you may have to, get them right up beside you, hold really close to the collar. Like, I have to do that for, like, Rue and whatnot when people go by on bikes, right? Because that's asking a lot of them, right? Like,
that's good to know. He's got much better. Like, if we're on a footpath and they're just on the road, he's actually quite good. But if they're on the footpath and scream past us, I try to never put them in that position, but occasionally shit happens. But
you give them as much space as you can, and we have a lot of. I give those guys a lot of clearance for that, because that's hitting them right in the genetic gut. Like that movement, especially if there's a dog, right? That's another animal that's moving, right? They have such a drive to control movement. Like, I gotta get that, I gotta stop that, and if you had two people jogging and a dog, that's three people out of control that he needs to stop, right? That's hard for him. So the fact that he just got out a couple of woofs and like that would have been like, you did it, buddy. Like, I would have, that would have been a good.
Well, he got a lot of praise for that. I sort of said, we've done it. It's sort of, so there have been moments where I'm seeing that we can do this.
Yeah.
It's just, I really feel, there's been a huge change with Geordie and I, and like even with the barking, there is still some nighttime barking, which really pisses me right off. But even if it's during the day, and we go to the window thing, I sort of feel like we're more partners. I'm not having to use that spatial pressure on him anymore. I just sort of go up and I have a good look out, and he will then just disengage and go and lie on the floor behind me or something like that. And I don't know. So there's just sort of this easiness between us most of the time, and even on our walks. I'm really, because he is actually starting to look back at me to sort of say, "You're coming," and that's a huge change for Geordie. So I really feel like we are being more cooperative, I guess, with one another, which is really, really lovely.
Really lovely indeed. Well, that is it, my friends, for today. That is a brief sort of look into a coaching call with Heather and I. I just wanted to share some of that with you today. I hope you enjoyed. Listen, if you are someone that is like, hey, I could use a coaching call with Tracy, I would love to sit down and chat with you, especially if you've already taken the doganality quiz and you're like, I'd like to know more about that. How can I connect? How can I bond, with this doganality? We could go over all of those things. If you have a particular behavior you'd like to discuss, we can discuss that too. Or even better, if you're somebody that has wanted a dog community that really truly gets it, with a goal of connecting with our dog, with reaching our dogs rather than teaching our dogs. Shout out to my mentor Nelson for that. But if you're interested in that kind of a bond and connection with your dog, please, please, please feel free to come on over and join us inside the Fearful Dog Fearless framework. It's the best community out there. So much fun, so much love, so much support. And I'd love to see you there. So how do you do that? You're going to go to beyondobedience.ca/fearless if you want to jump into that do-it-yourself program, the group coaching program that Heather is in. If you're looking to connect with me one-on-one, you can do that by going to beyondobedience.ca/session and book your Calm Confident coaching call with me today. Listen, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, get out there today, my friend, and be the person that your dog thinks you are, because your dog thinks that you are amazing, and so do I. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now. Oh, and one more thing. This podcast is meant for entertainment and education purposes only, and it's not meant to replace hands-on professional training. If you're really struggling with your dog, please reach out to a professional in your area. All right, I think that's it. Bye for now.